In the small town of Willow Creek, everyone knew everyone. It was the kind of place where neighbors left their doors unlocked, where the diner owner remembered your order before you sat down, and where the local hospital staff felt more like family than co-workers. That's why the disappearance of Emily Carter shattered the town. Emily was 32, a respected nurse at Willow Creek Community Hospital. She was known for her calm voice, gentle smile, and the way she stayed long after her shift ended if a patient needed comfort. Elderly residents adored her. Parents trusted her. Doctors relied on her. To the outside world, Emily Carter was the kind of person you never expected to see on a missing poster. But on the morning of October 14th, she didn't show up for work. At first, the hospital staff assumed she had overslept. Emily was punctual to a fault, but everyone had an off day sometimes. By noon, concern started to grow. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Her small blue sedan was still parked in the gravel driveway of the modest home she rented on Maple Street. The front door was locked. Inside, everything looked normal. Her purse sat on the kitchen counter. Her coffee mug was half full, and her phone charger was still plugged into the wall. It was as if Emily had stepped out for a moment and never returned. The Willow Creek Police Department officially opened a missing person investigation that evening. The town mobilized almost instantly. Volunteers organized search parties through nearby woods and farmland. Flyers with Emily's photo appeared in grocery stores, gas stations, and church bulletin boards. Local deputies initially suspected a random act of violence. Maple Street bordered a stretch of forest that connected to a highway just 20 minutes away. Investigators theorized that someone passing through might have abducted her. It was the explanation that made the most sense, because no one in Willow Creek believed Emily had enemies. But detectives quickly discovered something unsettling. There were no signs of forced entry, and neighbors hadn't heard a struggle, which suggested one troubling possibility. Emily may have known the person who came to her door that night. Detectives began reconstructing Emily's final days. At the hospital, co-workers described her as dedicated and kind. But a few mentioned something strange. Over the past month, Emily had seemed distracted. One nurse remembered seeing her step outside during a shift to take a phone call. When she returned, she looked pale and shaken. She told co-workers it was just family stuff. But Emily's family lived several states away. So detectives started examining her personal life. That's when the first crack in the story appeared. Emily had been seeing someone quietly. Not many people knew about him. His name was Daniel Hayes, a local contractor who had moved to Willow Creek about a year earlier. Friends described the relationship as on and off. Some said it seemed intense. Others said it felt complicated. When police interviewed Daniel, he appeared cooperative. He told detectives he and Emily had broken up 2 weeks earlier. He claimed she wanted space. On the night she disappeared, Daniel said he had been home alone watching television. He had no alibi. Still, investigators didn't immediately consider him a suspect. Breakups happened all the time, and there was no evidence tying him to Emily's disappearance. At least not yet. Then detectives reviewed Emily's phone records. And something didn't add up. In the week before she vanished, Emily had called Daniel 17 times. Most of the calls lasted only a few seconds. Some happened late at night. Others occurred during her hospital shifts. It didn't sound like a woman who wanted space. It sounded like someone trying to reach someone who wouldn't answer. Then investigators discovered the final call. Emily had dialed Daniel at 10:42 p.m. the night she disappeared. The call lasted 12 seconds. The case might have stalled there if not for an unexpected tip. A neighbor named Mrs. Langley came forward 3 days later. At first, she hadn't thought much of it. But the more she watched the news coverage, the more something nagged at her. On the night Emily disappeared, she remembered hearing a car door slam outside around 11 p.m. When she looked out her window, she saw a dark pickup truck parked near Emily's house. She couldn't see the driver clearly. But she remembered something very specific. A large dent in the passenger door. Investigators didn't have to search long. Daniel Hayes owned a pickup truck, and it had a noticeable dent in the passenger door. Police obtained a warrant to search Daniel's property. At first, nothing obvious stood out. But in the bed of his truck, forensic investigators found tiny traces of blood hidden beneath the liner. The sample was sent to the lab. 2 days later, the results came back. The blood matched Emily Carter. When detectives confronted Daniel with the evidence, his calm demeanor finally cracked. What he confessed shocked the entire town. According to Daniel, Emily had shown up at his house the night she disappeared. They argued. Not about the breakup. About something else entirely. Emily had discovered that Daniel was married. His wife lived in another state and believed he was working temporarily in Willow Creek. Emily had recently learned the truth, and she had threatened to tell his wife. The argument escalated. Daniel claimed Emily slapped him. In a moment of rage, he shoved her. She fell backward and struck her head against the edge of a tool bench in the garage. Daniel said she stopped moving. Panicking, he loaded her into the truck and drove into the forest outside town. He buried her in a shallow grave near an old logging road. When authorities recovered Emily Carter's remains, the entire town of Willow Creek mourned. Hundreds attended the candlelight vigil held outside the hospital where she had worked. Patients she had once cared for stood beside doctors and nurses who had considered her family. Many struggled to understand how someone so beloved could meet such a tragic end. The answer, investigators later said, was painfully simple. Sometimes the greatest danger doesn't come from strangers. It comes from the people we trust. Daniel Hayes was convicted of second-degree murder and sentenced to 25 years in prison. In Willow Creek, Emily Carter's story remains a reminder that even the most peaceful communities can hide painful secrets. At the hospital, a small plaque now hangs in the nurses' lounge. It reads, "In memory of Emily Carter, whose kindness touched every life she cared for." And in Willow Creek, no one has ever forgotten the nurse who vanished and the truth that followed.